This tutorial looks at forecasts versus budgets, two things that are commonly mistaken for one another. Let's start with a forecast. A forecast uses the historical performance of the company in order to predict the future performance of the company. What do we mean by that? Let's say for the first 3 months of the year, being Jan, Feb, and March, the following sales figures are achieved. 100 Rand in Jan, 110 Rand in Feb, and 120 Rand in March. Now, when you cast these, looking forward, you then create what is known as a forecast. So your results from April, May, June onwards would be using the historical figures of 100, 110, 120. We see that every single month the sales are growing by 10 Rand. So your sales for April will be predicted to be 130 Rand, your sales for May will be predicted to be 140 Rand, and your sales for June will be predicted to be 150 Rand. And obviously this will continue for the remaining duration of your forecast. If instead the sales figures for Jan, Feb, and March were as follows: 100 Rand, 100 Rand, 100 Rand, then again we would cast these figures and use them to calculate the figures looking forward. So in April, the sales would stay the same at 100 Rand. In May, the sales would stay the same at 100 Rand. In June, the sales would stay the same at 100 Rand. And this would go on for the duration of the forecast period. There are three kinds of forecasts in a year. Let's call it forecast 1, forecast 2, and forecast 3. The first forecast, which is predicted at the end of the first 3 months of the year, contains 3 months worth of historical figures, so 3 months history, in order to predict for the following 9 months. Forecast 2, which is prepared after 6 months of the year, will therefore contain 6 months worth of historical results and 6 months predicted results. The last forecast for the year, which is prepared 9 months after the year has begun, will therefore contain 9 months of actual historical results and only 3 months worth of predicted results. This is the gist behind forecasting. Let's now speak about budgets. What is a budget and how is it different from a forecast? A budget is a totally predictive plan. Totally predictive plan of the financial performance of a company. Note the critical difference between forecasts, which depend on history in order to determine the future, and budgets, which are totally predictive. A budget for the following year is usually constructed in the last quarter of the current year. Budgets vary in terms of how long the time period that they cover is. You can get short-term budgets like a 3-month budget or a 6-month budget, or you can get the common 1-year budget, or you can get a 2-year budget, or even a 5-year budget. Any budget that's longer than 5 years is considered extremely unreliable because things could have changed dramatically after a 5-year period. Both budgets and forecasts are used for control. What does that mean? That means a financial manager will compare the actual results of the company with what it is that they had forecast, with what it is that the budget says. If there's discrepancies, if there's differences between forecast budgets and the actual performance, the financial manager will step in and find out what's the reason for that difference and put measures into place so as to get the performance aligned to the plan of the business.